people of all ages can identify with struggle, and everybody wants to see triumph. Everybody wants to see hope. So when we can all sit in awe of young people being courageous, specifically about our film, it unifies us as a collective.
Well, hey, welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And I'm so excited about this episode because how I met Dana was very synchronistic. So, Dana Christian Lee is a devoted mom to William and Grace and a longtime educator with more than 25 years of experience. She's originally from Michigan, and she and her family moved to Northern California, 19, where Petaluma instantly felt like home. With degrees in education, certifications in yoga and mindfulness, Dana blends heart, presence, and well-being into every space that she leads. Her passion is creating community through connection, conversation, and accessible mental and physical wellness. And in 2023, she joined Tell My Story, which is a nonprofit empowering parents to prioritize their children's mental health through film, music, and open dialogue. Dana, welcome to the show.
Hello, Amanda. I love that the universe brought us together.
1,000,000%. So, dear listener, Dana and I met because I was flying to the movie premiere for Moms Rising, which is a movie project that I've been involved in for the past few years. And would you know it, as I was walking through one of the biggest airports in the nation, I bump into someone I know. And that someone I know knew Dana. And so when I told this person about what I was about to do with the premiere of the movie, she says, "You have to meet Dana." And so we did. Like, how synchronistic is that? Like, I didn't look her up. She didn't look me up. We weren't in each other's marketing circles. It was just literally a friend of a friend saw an opportunity for cool connection. So,
And it was
Dana,
meant to be.
it was meant to be. Absolutely. So, Dana, catch us up a little bit on what are you focused on right now as you're heading into the new year? Like, what's 2026 going to be focused on for you, and maybe tell my story?
Wow, that's a big one. 2025 was such a big year that I'm wrapping it up right now and also launching into this new year with a big creative heart. And right now, we're getting distribution of Tell My Story's latest film called Shift, Do What Moves You. And my personal goal is to have that film screened 1,000 times in 2026 all across the globe. So, distribution of our new film is a really big thing. Countless conversations with young people, specifically to hear about how this film lands, do a lot of presencing with them to see what they need and then to move into this next, wave of what Tell My Story is about. So we're making another film on AI as we speak. So that's in the works. And also I have a couple other creative projects as a producer in my mind and on the way. So stay tuned for those.
That's so exciting. And one of the things that really sparked with us when we were speaking, getting to know each other off the air was around this idea of using different mediums, like non-traditional mediums, to share really important messaging. I work with a lot of coaches, a lot of entrepreneurs. There's a lot of people. I read a stat the other day that 83% of people want to write and publish a book. And I thought, in the United States, which I thought that was so interesting. But what brought us together was message through film. So I'm so curious if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about what was it about the medium of film to share an important story? Like, why pursue that versus the other, maybe more traditional ways of working with people with mental health and speaking and like all that kind of thing? Why film?
Film is a great connector of mind, of heart, and of people through something outside of yourself. So you don't have to insert yourself right away in a conversation. You can feel yourself in a story of another person and identify, oh, yeah, I feel like that. Oh, yeah, that resonates. Oh, that doesn't resonate. So I think the connection to what a film does, particularly with our young people telling their stories, people of all ages can identify with struggle, and everybody wants to see triumph. Everybody wants to see hope. So when we can all sit in awe of young people being courageous, specifically about our film, it unifies us as a collective, cheering these young people on, and then also asking ourselves, what do I love? What moves me? And then when the film ends, we're back in a space where we all feel connected without having to say a word.
Mm. It's so beautiful. What came through for me as you spoke about that is there's so much good information out there, but because it's not paired with inspiration, it's not paired with like that shared emotional reason to talk about the good information that's out there. um I can see how it doesn't really land, and especially in our current circumstances in 2026, when I look at social content, for example, and I'm definitely one of these creators, but a lot of social content is very casually produced. It's not. Maybe you could just take us through like what is the process as a producer when you're bringing a film forward. There's a lot more to it than, for example, sitting down and doing a podcast. Not to diminish what we're doing, I'm just saying, like, for a podcast to have even close to that amount of impact, would require an immense amount of preparation and planning and all of that. So with film, what do you keep in mind as a producer to make it a successful, inspirational experience?
For myself, I focus on my life as an experiment, right? Like I watch myself in situations, which then leads me to hold a space of presence with other people, to be able to
Mm.
engage with their emotional landscape, if you will, energetics, in observation, and then deep conversation. So I talk to a lot of people, I talk to a lot of groups, a lot of young people, and I feel their need first. And I use my intuition to say, where am I being guided? What story needs to be told? So it's less, because we live in such a top down culture, Amanda, it's like the mind can get tricky. It doesn't always speak truth to us. Most of the time, it doesn't necessarily speak truth. So for me as a producer, and as a mom and as a woman especially, like I listen to my heart. And so I feel deeply, like in having all these conversations with our first film, What I Wish My Parents Knew, important conversations, but they were difficult. And I could tell that people wanted to feel hopeful. So in every conversation, that's what I wove together, was a feeling. And then from that feeling, I asked myself, what do I want people to experience? And then what's going to land? And the name Shift was super powerful for me when it came through, because everybody I speak with, young, old, doesn't matter, they all want something to shift in their lives for the better. People want to be happier, they want to be healthier, they want to be more connected. So telling story with heart is what comes through first for me, and then having that word that's going to land, and that invitation that asks people to dig deeper inside their hearts and then begin to take small or larger actions in their life. Do what moves you. Because as a society, we all know we have a mental health crisis, and we're moving, shifting that paradigm from problem to possibility. So that is the inspiration. That was the flow. And this was my first go round as being a producer. So it was a lot of learning, a lot of lying on the ground, like with creative crisis, that kind of thing. Logistics, kids getting sick for filming, you name it, it happens. But
Yeah.
I would say that creating and producing this film came specifically from direct experience with young people, with parents, with a lot of listening with heart, feeling culture, and then asking, what do I could feel the direction I wanted this to go. And then I was able to move it.
I can hear from just even how you're describing this intentionality and the allowance for that inspirational space to be able to do it, because I love what you said about things being so top down. I did some research the other day actually around relative market sizes. I was just super curious, what was the market for mental health versus what was the market for coaching? And coaching is like this teeny tiny little market as compared to the market for mental health. Like it's a massive growing demand for mental health. And I thought that that was like a really interesting finding. It didn't surprise me, to be very honest, but it really does point to how important it is to have content and conversations resulting from the content that are steering us in that direction of growth. Because one of the big things that I see as a difference between coaching and pure mental health support is that coaching is very forward focused. It's about the attainment of goal. It's about overcoming challenge. It's about very forward focused. And I think like being able to activate and bring those two things together, you're always going to have the mental health needs, of course, but as a society, if we could also start to shift, like you said, just start to shift and like choose to pursue goals, choose to pursue a better version, and to support each other more openly, that seems like a worthy goal. Yeah.
Yeah, in a world that's so outwardly focused on what other people think, how you present yourself, what your social media presence is like people disconnect from essentially who they are.
Mm.
Listening to their own heart, listening to their own needs, being curious instead of, what's happening, which is running around trying to please people to get more likes, more followers, achieve. And external goals aren't bad, like wanting to have a career or don't get me wrong. But when we do that from a place that's ungrounded and not
Totally.
plugged into
Hollow.
one's truth,
Yep.
and so, one of the interesting things this film reveals too is the challenging question of what moves you, but also when parents see the film, there's a resonance that asks them to reflect on their own children, right? And what they're pursuing and how they're holding space for their kids. And are what their kids doing actually what they want to do as opposed to what the parents want them to do? So, like when my daughter was young, the first thing I did was put her in ballet. I liked ballet. I thought she might like ballet too, right? I get after a while. And so I was like, okay, fine. But I didn't push her in that direction. Not that I'm like a stellar parent, but I try to tune into my kids, to listen and to hold space for that. And so asking ourselves as adults, right? Like, what are my dreams? What were my unfulfilled dreams? Am I projecting my needs onto my own children? So there's a lot of things, to hold. And it's not with judgment, it's just with spaciousness and openness and curiosity and presence. Because when we can let our guard down and just begin to feel into this, so much opens up. And that's where the enthusiasm, that's where the excitement comes in to say, oh, I feel something rising. Like that's inspiration, it's spirit rising within to say, oh,
Hmm.
maybe like if you're really having a hard time as a kid and doing the new thing called bed rotting or just, rotting in your day, like maybe just get in the shower. Shift how you feel physically by feeling warm water and then getting to school on time. Those can be some things that can move your life in a positive direction, right? Because everybody wants a life that has happiness, that has no pain. And our coping mechanisms we use can sometimes thwart that, right? Like we can binge whatever, right? Like instead of getting quiet or even just going outside taking a walk. And so this film invites all of us to be reflective and sometimes seeing who we are right now is challenging, but it's also inspiring to say, if I'm not really liking where I am or what I see, this is an opportunity. This is not life against me. This is life for me because it wants to come through me.
I'm so curious, like in the conversations that you've had so far with parents, I imagine they do see like potentially that projection or that desire that they once had. Are you also seeing them discover that there's a permission that the parent themselves also has to shift, like to realize like you can still activate the goal? There's plenty of time. Like so much of my coaching is really rooted in that, but I'm curious if that's coming up from the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had a lot of parent groups, and the first thing that I sense happens and people communicate is they see themselves as their young self first. Because when I'm specifically leading, I ask people to remember a time when they were young where they were doing something where they lost track of time that they really loved? Where were you? What did it feel like? So, Amanda, for you, what do you remember about being young and like just living life fully with confidence and no like filter?
I was always building stuff. Like I was always design it, and funnily enough, I was always designing like communities and clubs. And I still remember my very, very first club was with one other girl. And it was the
Yes.
Kit Kat Club. But I
It was
would
what
get
day
busy.
club?
We had business cards, we had an agenda, we had like all the things. And it's so funny because like even to this day, anytime I have an opportunity to volunteer or to help with something or to like play a role, it's a version of that. It's just this version of like the little logistics and coordination of helping everybody do a thing together. But yeah, like that's what I thought of as soon as you said it.
Yeah, and it's fun because some people get joy like you do, for sure. Like, oh, I remember being that, and then I get built on that. It became the foundation of who they were. But there are some that chose a path maybe that hasn't brought them joy like that. And then,
Yeah. Well, I totally stepped away from that path, by the way, for the record. Like
sure,
because I wanted to earn the money and I wanted to have the prestige. So I chose a path that I thought would give me more of that. And what's really funny is like I got a whole degree in chemical engineering and I'm applying to all these jobs afterwards and I didn't get an engineering job at all. I ended up kind of reverting back. And it's so funny because I've had three to four major career shifts over my life. And you're really raising this up like right now. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going back to that little girl. The
hmm
more every time I do it, it's because I'm getting more freedom, but that expression of the freedom for me is more of that little girl. That's fascinating.
well, and so that's what's unwinding for people. They're
Mm,
kind of going back and having this sense of who they were, what it felt like if they were in nature, fishing, climbing trees, whatever. And then, particularly, I've seen some men like express that they got stuck in a corporate box or they put themselves there and like they didn't get outside as much. So it was liberating for them. And when I have conversations with groups of people, I can see tears in their eyes. I can see a sense of sadness. But then once the conversation keeps going and talking about the inspiration of, like you said, it is never too late to choose yourself and to do something that moves you, and taking a moment, if it's been a very long time, to ask yourself, who am I right now? And what do I love? And even if I don't love it, what do I like? And then people start to unpack that. And then they get more curious then about their children. So then we get into the conversation about young people and how when energy moves, it doesn't get stuck. They're more awake, they're more aware, their brains are on, their hearts
yeah.
are open. And school or family time or whatever responsibility they have becomes more joyful because they know they have a foundation within themselves of choice. These kids really want choice in their lives. And that's been reflected to me again and again by high school students that I speak with. And they identify with the kids who choose resilience in the film. So it's very fascinating to see, this is just beginning. So having conversation like this with you is very exciting because I want it to be a universal fit. You don't have to have children. You don't have to be a parent. This is a human conversation. And storytelling is an ancient practice, connecting, teaching, of being part of something larger in such a beautiful way. And I'm so humbled to be able to get people, like you said, 84, what did you say, 84% of people want to write a book?
Yeah,
What I
83, I
asked
think,
myself,
84.
what that just means people want to share. They want to tell their own story. Hence,
They
we
do.
have Tell My Story, and that's what I want people to be able to do with their lives. Become the hero of your own life. Shine your light. The world needs people in their truth. The world needs people in their passions. And then the world needs people to be present to help others see that they have that inside themselves too. And that's what this film does. It's like a lighthouse.
I love it. Well, Dana, what is the best way for people to follow you and find out more about what you do?
Well, my personal Instagram is just at Dana Christian Lee. Through Tell My Story, everything is tellmystory.org, Facebook, same, Instagram at Tell My Story Community, and you can reach me at dana Dana at tellmystory.org. And anyone that's inspired by this message, send me an email, send me a DM. Let's talk. And if you want to have our film, we can work together to create an event where you screen the film and there's no charge to you. That's the beauty of this. And then have a dialogue after around what moves you, whether it's your school for your kids, a business that you run, a community organization that you're part of. This is the raw material that can fit almost any place.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
It's so nice to be here. I feel like I know you, and we've only met once, and this is so beautiful. This is the power of technology for good.
A million percent. I feel exactly the same way. And dear listener, if you found this fascinating and you want to share it with 3 of your friends, don't forget to grab the link and send it on to them through however you guys like to chat, whether it's over DM or text. And if you haven't already, make sure you smash the subscribe button so you don't miss another interview. And we are going to be back very, very soon. And in the meantime, if you've listened to a few episodes of the show and you just think we're awesome and you want to support us, one of the most incredible things you can do takes about 2 minutes. And that is, of course, to leave an honest review. So those reviews, they really help people to decide whether they want to spend time with us. And of course, we are immensely grateful for your support. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in another episode.
Thank you.